Hello, everyone, and welcome to Flickering Myth TV. My name is EJ Marino, and joining me is Alan Christian from the Flickering Myth podcast. I'm so excited for you to join me for this conversation because this might get not scandalous between me and you, but like I feel the comment section might hate me.
Yeah, that's gonna be a time.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Me and you are going to have a fun time because even I've noticed if we disagree on something, if you guys listen to the podcast or the minis that we post on here on YouTube, we can banter really well. Today's subject is banter worthy. We're talking about Christopher Nolan, as I called him, the man, the myth, or is he a little bit overrated? I agree with that last one. But yeah, so I kind of wanted to jump off because we were talking about Tenet, which is his new film coming up, which has a wonderful trailer that we both were so amazed by.
Yeah, no. Up front, before anybody jumps down my throat, they can get on your shit. I love Christopher Nolan. I have liked all of his movies except The Dark Knight Rises, which I think is terrible, and we can talk about that in the comments below if you want. But just wanted that on Front Street as we're moving forward.
Yeah, and I'm not turning this into I think he is a horrible filmmaker. I think he is very accomplished. I think there's a mystique around him, though, that I am curious when it happened, how it happened, what was the movie. So yeah, I kind of wanted to start this off with our personal feelings. So I've kind of alluded to it. I'm not a big Christopher Nolan fan. He is a filmmaker, like many, I respect. As a filmmaker, I respect his love of film as well. That's something I think we all kind of admire about him, and could have answered one of my questions is the nerdy cinema people really like him for that reason. But yeah, I just have never seen his movies. I can literally name all of them and go, oh my God, my life's so different. The Dark Knight, I do not love. I've gone on record with that multiple times. Again, none of this all has an asterisk to this. None of this is bad. I will put that here. None of this, I'm not saying The Dark Knight is bad, Inception, Dunkirk, that's not my thing. I've never seen The Prestige, which I will be fixing that soon.
Prestige is good.
That's the one I think I'm gonna like the most. I'm excited for that. But yeah, so I'm just coming into this as a fan of cinema and going, but why did we hail Christopher Nolan? Like, who gave him the crown? And I'm kind of curious on that. So we'll get into that in a second. But what are your full feelings? When did he come onto your radar?
Batman Begins.
Okay.
I hadn't seen anything of his. That's not true. I had seen Memento. I think
everyone saw Memento at one point.
Yeah,
but no one saw Memento.
Yeah, I just didn't register that was him. I didn't know who made it. So from that, and then I followed him into The Prestige mostly because I liked Christian Bale. So jumping off on that because that came out, I think that and David Ayer's Harsh Times came out around the same time. I remember watching those both around the same time. One much better than the other.
Well, also director quality.
Yeah. Harsh Times is like The Room quality, but nobody wants to say it. But yeah, so I remember going into that and then just being like, okay, this guy he's more than just the Batman guy. Like, he's actually good at making movies. And then, of course, like, I was amped for The Dark Knight. So, just that progression from Batman Begins to The Prestige, The Dark Knight, and then to Inception, which, to answer your question from earlier, when did he come on everybody's radar? It's when he made Inception. It's not just that he made The Dark Knight and that was a huge success. It's that he made an original idea and made it a huge summer blockbuster with a brain. Those are quotation marks. It is, for a big summer blockbuster, like, he was able to do that in a big way with a big budget with his own property and have it make a ton of money. That's when he came on everybody's radar as a guy that could do his own stuff, as more than just a superhero film director.
Which is so funny because, like, I remember Memento and I remember hearing his name and all that. That was the same time I kind of saw all those pretentious-y bro movies, I used to call them, like Fight Club, Memento. I kind of saw all those at the same time.
Yeah.
I think those are both very good films with very good filmmakers that I think their fan bases have ruined both those movies. I think one thinks it's the most like mind-blowing piece of cinema, and the other one thinks it's like a movie about being a bro, and I'm like, no, he's making fun of you. Fight Club's written by a gay man who hates you guys. Ignore that. Yeah, so I just think it was interesting. So I guess Inception really is that point. What I think surprises me is he's never won an Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
He makes money. He's never made money other than the Dark Knight movies.
Batman movies, yeah, that's
So
true.
that's what's interesting.
Those Batman movies made a lot of money.
I mean,
so as long as he keeps making money for Warner and not losing money for them, he's got he's there. They're gonna keep supporting him. So.
Yeah, and because I'm always curious of why, and I guess he's a little bit newer, but like why Denis Villeneuve has never gotten that Christopher Nolan level of hype yet, And I wonder, what'd you say?
Because he doesn't make money.
That's what I go back to, because that's what's so funny is I'm like, does that really help? Like, Blade Runner should have been a big nerdy cult classic, and it was at that time. I feel like that came and went in a way. Same thing with Arrival. I love Arrival. Mm-hmm. It went to the Oscars, which yay, and then it fizzled out.
Yeah, well, they weren't big. They weren't big mass market movies, and that's the problem. Is that they threw. I mean, I think Arrival was probably reasonably budgeted, but they threw a ton of money at Blade Runner, and a sequel to a movie that failed in the early '80s.
Yeah,
was never going to do business.
So
I don't know why they threw that kind of money at it. It's great. I love that movie. I know you don't, but I am a huge Blade Runner fan, so I was dreading that even happening. I was like, this doesn't need a sequel. This is bullshit. I'm not gonna like this. And I went and I loved it. And then people were like, oh, it failed. They're not gonna make another sequel. Good, fine, whatever. It doesn't need another sequel. But yeah, throwing money at projects like that, like Dune. Dune's not going to make any money. I don't know if we curse on here.
We can do funny YouTube noises. I'll just censor it, like with dolphins.
Dune's not going to make any money, so that's important. Not only because it gives studios faith in their director, but if it made money, then that means a lot of people saw it.
Yeah.
And then that's that many more people that want to see his next one.
Yeah, and that's, I guess sometimes I feel I agree with you, but looking at this kind of recent string of Nolan with Interstellar and Dunkirk, I'm surprised he's kept the nerd good faith. Because I think they still back him up. Interstellar was fine. I think a lot of people like it. I'm not saying it's the second coming of Christ. I will watch that before The Martian in those two comparable movies. Both are fine. And then I go to Dunkirk and I'm like, that was such a fine piece of cinema. Mm-hmm. I don't think it was this. I didn't think it was going to be his Oscar movie, and it was kind of positioned to be, and it never was. So I'm just kind of.
Oh, it should have been. If ever he's made one, I think it should have been. I love Dunkirk. But that was, again, that made money. That one was one of his more reasonably budgeted ones, I think. I don't think that one hit the 200 million mark on the budget. So it made its money back. So like I said, as long as he keeps making his money for Warner, they're going to let him do whatever he wants. And I think that movie was good. And anybody that went to see that movie, anybody that wanted to see a Christopher Nolan World War II movie, I think got out of it what they wanted out of it. So I don't think that I don't think he's done anything to lose anyone's goodwill, with the exception of The Dark Knight Rises, which not everyone hates, and I feel like I'm taking crazy pills with that movie sometimes. But
I mean, I am a fan of it. I think that movie is incredibly flawed.
It's bonkers. There's things I like in it. It's not the worst movie in the world, but it is so weird and bonkers, and not in a good way.
I think I always look at Christopher Nolan as, you are probably going to hate me and the comments are going to go crazy. I feel like he's the cooler Steven Spielberg.
Mhm.
I always thought he made old guy movies, and in a weird way, I've always thought he made dad films. I know that that kind of term came up a lot with Ad Astra last year, of like what a dad movie is, and Ford v Ferrari and all these. And I always felt he kind of falls into that category. So again, I don't want to say I'm jealous of him because I'm not the filmmaker. I'm just like, how did you guys back this dude? But like nerds hate Zack Snyder. And I'm not, this isn't a pro Zack Snyder thing, but I'm like, when did you guys, who are we backing sometimes? Because I feel like we talked about, I don't think Nolan is as much of a comic book fan as other people. So, and his sci-fi movies are not the sci-fi movies I normally see nerds, the fun geekdom of the film community backing.
Yeah, they're not fun movies.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what sometimes when people are like, we're so hyped about the Tenet trailer, and they're like, oh my god, it's coming, and I'm like, it's going to be another, like you described it perfectly in the podcast, sterile is a good word for his movies. And that's not an insult. They are very the set direction, the art direction, all that is very clean, modern. He has a very modern aesthetic to his clothing as well and everything. So I laugh at him, like he is like the nerd god at times, but I'm like, he's not even the nerdiest of film. Taika Waititi is nerdier than him.
Yeah, I think because he makes nerds feel like they're smart.
Ooh, that was very astute, and I don't even think that's shade. I think that's his type of filmmaking too, is he invites you in, because this is my complimentary of him. He makes some weird heady movies, but I don't think he scares you off of them, which sometimes I think, I guess comparing back to like Denis Villeneuve, is a intimidating filmmaker. I look at like Prisoners. That's not an easy movie to like, I'm just gonna watch this movie. This is just where even Inception is a headier movie than that, but is easier to watch. So I think that's what I guess Nolan does well, is like, I think he like clickbaits people into movies. They're like, oh, look, this is a nerdy movie, and you get in and it's not that. It's a little bit smarter. So I think his mystique is what blows my mind, I think.
Yeah, I think that comes from the fact that he doesn't really embrace uh, he doesn't really embrace like this nerd culture, the culture that's kind of been around him. He could probably care less. So people are like, oh, he's aloof and mysterious. I'm like, I probably just doesn't care.
He's like the coolest of the cool kids.
Yeah.
Like he's just, yeah, I think he is a very interesting thing. He also has the Tarantino syndrome, as well as he hasn't made a lot of movies, and they're so spaced sometimes where like I feel like we can't get angry at him. We're like, Michael Bay would bang out movies one after another, and we kind of like have this thing every 4 years. I feel like Christopher Nolan pops up and we're like, oh, that Nolan is back. What's he up to? And I think he hasn't like earned bad faith. And again, I'm not saying he's a bad filmmaker by any means. I'm just always like, wow, the guy who likes trench coats and characters who look just like him.
That's true. It's the Batman movies, though. It's the Batman movies. It is the combination of the Dark Knight trilogy and Inception that he will continue to coast on that goodwill until, I don't know, so there's some other version of Batman that kids grow up with, because that's obviously not going to be Ben Affleck.
I know. And maybe Pattinson, which again goes back to Nolan getting Pattinson in this new film. And I feel like Tenet is his most attempt at making a youthful film. There's a younger cast, there's a black lead. It's a little bit weird, and they added the action scenes in that trailer as well, which I thought was so smart. That second trailer had that one action scene in reverse, which made me think of the Joseph Gordon-Levitt one in Inception, which goes back to Nolan really liking to repeat himself. Again, when you're that good of a filmmaker, I guess, when you're like, who am I going to homage? Me.
I've seen a lot of people pumped for this.
Yeah.
And again, I'm saying this as somebody who has liked everything he's done pretty much. And I will go watch anything he does. I don't think this looks good. I think this looks like a bad. I think this looks like a bad like Last Days of Vertigo comics plot. Like some creator-owned comic that it was never going to get any traction. Like this is some shit Matt Fraction would write, and it would not be very good. And the dialogue in the thing just didn't sound. It sounded like Christopher Nolan dialogue, which like is often not good.
I don't think he spoke to humans
Yeah.
often, so that's why his dialogue sometimes is very like stilted.
Yeah, I mean, the best you can hope for in Christopher Nolan dialogue is like a really good monologue,
Mm-hmm.
which is not dialogue. It's important to note. There are different things. You can get a really good monologue out of him every now and then, or hope that it's functional to move the plot along and doesn't try to have any character.
Which Inception, I think, has both. I think people realize a lot of the characters are talking at other characters in big, long monologues, basically, and the other characters like, yeah, whoa.
Yeah. It's which contributes to the sterility and of his movies is that he does not have like real human interaction. He has some very human moments.
Mm-hmm.
He has some very great moments, but I don't think he really understands human interaction. I've called his movies sexless before because I can't imagine any two of his characters engaging on an intimate level. So, but this just seems to combine everything that I don't like about his movies, which again, love his movies. Don't tear me up in the comments over that.
Every filmmaker has bad qualities, though.
Yes. Every one of them has flaws.
Mm-hmm.
And this seems to more lean on Nolan tropes and the flaws that I just don't really dig in his stuff. And it's a 2-3 minute trailer. I don't expect that to be the whole summation of what this movie is, but I'm not excited for it.
What it gave me, and this is shade, but also not, is it looked like someone making a Christopher Nolan movie.
Yes.
It felt like I'm a filmmaker I was 18 when The Dark Knight came out.
It's Boondock Saints to Pulp Fiction.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. I feel like Tarantino has sometimes made Tarantino-esque movies. And I'm like, Once Upon a Time feels like Tarantino making a movie that he would think Tarantino would make. And that's kind of what this gave me. Is like, it does. It takes all the traits where like someone who really likes Tarantino or really likes Christopher Nolan would be like, ooh, what if I take that, and that? I'm like, ooh, those are the things you don't grab. You grab those other things. And I feel like that's kind of what they did. And I really want this to do well because of John David Washington. We don't have a lot of younger black leads right now, and he has Black Klansman he's coming off of. This is the same thing with Robert Pattinson. I mean, different circumstances. He needs a big film, especially before going into Batman. Yeah. I love what he's done recently. We talk about The King on the podcast all the time. The Lighthouse. He's an artist. We know that. He needs this movie badly.
Yeah, this would help him a lot going into a big role to actually, because he's been working in and making, doing real acting. He's been breaking that whole Twilight thing. He's been breaking himself of that very effectively over the past several years. But nothing has been, huge in the public eye. So this would do that for him, and I think get a lot more people on board with him as Batman. I hope it's successful. I hope they move the date.
I hope we can see it. I was going to say, like, to kind of wrap this up, I think one thing he's gaining some bad faith for is his refusal to move this date. And it's not Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers, we saw the trailer coming to theaters. They didn't put a date on it.
Yeah.
I'm curious of if that's ever going to hurt him, especially if he does. I mean, it does seem like places are opening up a little bit early. it now goes to the conversation of it's open, who goes?
Yeah.
And you
I
are a
think
big Nolan fan. You said you ain't going.
no,
So
not in the middle of July, unless there's some vaccination that's effective that comes out in the next month and a half. I'm not going.
maybe if you buy a popcorn with your ticket for the Tenet, they give you a vaccine with it. I don't know.
That's how they get it. That's how they get the vaccine to people.
At this point, it's better than most strategies I've heard. Operation Warp Speed. I'm good with Operation Popcorn Vaccine.
Oh God. But yeah, like he's all about the cinematic experience, which I respect, and I love going to the movies. There's a lot of things that I would prefer to see in movies rather than streaming. Christopher Nolan movies are among them because no matter what you think of what he does, the way he shoots things, I think looks better on a big screen. And so I would love to go for it. So I respect that he wants to get in theaters and wants to make it clear that it's not coming to streaming. But the thing that's going to get me into a theater is for you to move it. If you don't move it, I'm waiting for streaming.
Yeah. So. And I hope they learn the lesson they're going to. Like Warner Brothers is too much in a row right there with Tenet and Wonder Woman and Dune in December. Maybe that's also a thing where the hell do you put Tenet? Just put it next summer. No one's gonna hate it. I don't know. It's I don't want that job, but someone needs to do their job.
Yeah. Just throw Dune in February. It's gonna make February money anyway.
Yeah. And then again, if it does well in February, you get the headlines of I broke the February records, which are like $1.50. Like that's the kind of things I think they need. Tenet's gonna do much better than Dune. I don't know. We could live in a bizarre. It's 2020. Dune could be $1 billion film by the end of this.
That's a nice fantasy, and I'm sure Denis Villeneuve hopes that that's the case. But
Timothée Chalamet is like those 4-year-olds that love me better turn up to this.
No, if they do, they're not going to know what's happening. I've read Dune, and I don't know what's happening. So.
Maybe Christopher Nolan should have done Dune. No, there's too much sand there. He likes buildings.
Yeah, not enough architecture to shoot.
All right, this was fun. I'm glad we met. Again, we were always going to be in the middle. I have a respect for Nolan. Don't love his movies, but you have educated me a little bit of how the hell he became the Nolan he is. Because it almost felt like it happened overnight in a weird way of like, he is our god, and I'm like, I guess if it's him or Tarantino, I'll pick Nolan. I guess, but like I'm curious of who's going to be the next one if Nolan ever does it, and I want to check back after Tenet when will that Inception, Dark Knight, Good Faith ever wear out, and could Tenet be it? But we'll see.
I think you'd have to do it, even if Tenet is as humdrum as it looks. I think he would have another, he'd have another bite at the apple with most people, I think. So.
Fingers crossed we can see Tenet at one point. I hope it's, again, not in July because I'm not seeing it. I have press screenings and I'm still not seeing it. I'm good.
I do hope it's good. I have faith in the man that he's not going to make something that I hate. So this isn't me just being like, oh, that's going to come out and be shitty. It's just me being like, that didn't do anything for me with the trailers. So
yeah, it's a trailer. Again, I thought the Joker trailers looked great, and then look at that final result. So
you really want you really want the comments to
blow. Sure. It's our first little YouTube podcast. Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. I hope you guys have your Christopher Nolan feelings ready to send me. Let's not get too angry. It's Nolan. He ain't gonna miss me as a fan to give him that $15. All right, guys, comment down below. Make sure you subscribe to Flickering Myth because we make videos like this every single week. And give us a thumbs up if you did enjoy this video because YouTube takes them way too seriously. All right, guys, let's talk about Nolan, your favorite Nolan movies. Actually, yeah, tell me your favorite and your least favorite Christopher Nolan movies down below.